So good morning. Welcome to another 13 steps to make your photography business work. We're into week 4, so it's how to reset the business if it's not working right for you as such, really. And I'm sure for many in the past few years, thanks to COVID and now the cost of living and everything else with it, basically, curveballs have been passed our way, and it's really, really hard to see some kind of light beyond, as it were. And we've got to really look at how do we kind of put things in place to really kind of change things. When we were in lockdown 1, I was lucky enough to be working quite a lot with the Experience One group, or the Experience group, I should say. And for me, I was lucky that we had the kind of the distractions of kind of being busy. Many of our members at the time used us as a bit of a crutch as well to kind of make themselves a little bit busy. Some obviously didn't want to. They kind of settled back and just allowed the COVID weeks to kind of pass. Some really did tackle their business in every way, from decorating to kind of really pushing prices in a different direction, dealing with local businesses, really quite aggressively. They did lots of things really. And I'm one of those people that kind of believes in trying to push things forward all the time. However, you do get to a point where perhaps the business feels that it's really not repaying you for the time that you're putting in. Perhaps you kind of have changed your pricing or sales structure over the years before COVID were on about, and you basically kind of lent more towards a client that was a low spending client, and you didn't address your avatar, you didn't change the type of client that you're bringing through your door. And again, there comes a point where you're kind of really tired, you're knackered, you're kind of really trying to find a way out from it. And I gather that, it kind of feels a bit like quicksand. So what we've got to do now is basically a bit like when you have a alcoholic problem or a drink problem or a drug problem or a workaholic problem or whatever it would be. You have to basically kind of hit a reset button. That's absolutely key. The hard part is doing it, because we have a baby that we love. In other words, our business is our baby, and we might have been doing it for a long time, we might have been doing it for a short time, whichever, but we continue to do the same things. And my biggest advice to pretty much everybody that I've come across over my career is stop doing what you're doing now. It's because if you continue to do what you've been doing, all you will do is continue to lose more money, or you'll lose more kind of headspace. It'll get on top of you more, whatever it is. So the best thing that we can physically do, I know it sounds kind of weird, but basically stop it. Stop everything that you're doing, because if it's not working, why would we want to actually continue in the same way with it and things? So we need to kind of initiate a word, inertia. We need to move things forward. Many years ago, I was going up to a lab with my experience group for a couple of day visit. And before I went up, I'd finalized my kind of training sessions for the couple of days and things, really. But I asked my team at the time, at present I don't have really any team except for Laura, my wife, and basically my video guy. But inertia was a word that they all came up with, that they felt that the one word that they would apply to everybody in the experience group, bar none, was inertia. This kind of push the ball, keep it pushing, change, in other words. And ever since then, in fact, I've identified with this word, not just for how I talk about it to others, whether they're in the world of photography or in the world of business, full stop, but inertia, this kind of momentum, is absolutely key. And I've always tried to do it within my business. I've just never applied that word. So, excuse me, if we are going to change pricing, client, product, diary, advertising, staffing, whatever it would be, we can apply this number one word to all things immediately. So in other words, if the price list that we're using at present does not work, don't continue to use that price list. Look at something aggressively where we can physically change it. I think for photographers in the UK who kind of built small businesses based around the likes of watching a baby kind of grow kind of thing, they had a really good kind of inertia in the beginning, but then the more the 3 sessions during the year kind of began to not pay off. So perhaps a good session with a good payment, second session wasn't good at all for the majority, or some didn't come back, and the third session in sales wasn't anything, and basically hardly anybody came back bar a few. So again, it's amazing though how many kept that same thing rolling time and time again, because they were looking backwards into what it once was, hoping that it was going to come. And in fact, they redesigned price lists to accommodate the people who weren't spending. And by adjusting the price list to people who weren't spending, they weren't really helping those who were going to spend in a maximum way and everything else with it. So there is time where if you don't change, or you change in the wrong direction, you actually go backwards. And that's something that you've got to kind of feel the pulse with. So when we stop doing what we're doing and we start to apply a word inertia, it is absolutely imperative that all the changes that we're now applying, we are monitoring on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis. Now, if we've become a busy fool, then we need to really kind of look at how we're going to actually change the business straight away with it. So again, I've always believed in community marketing, and community marketing for me is all about dealing with local businesses. Now, I know for many, the likes of Facebook or social media marketing, once upon a time that before then it was yellow pages. You know, Yellow Pages doesn't exist today because of social media marketing, etc. But, you know, we've all tried to take the easy route out and trying to capture the people that are there. But in fact, doing the leather, doing the exhibitions, doing the local business and community marketing is one of the best things that you can physically do. So if, let's say that your lead generation is slowing down at present and you need to reset that style, you're coming into a perfect time of year when there's lots of little mini exhibitions going on that don't really cost the business much at all, but you can put some leather into that, some actually graft, some work into it by attending them and so on. Now, if you're the only person within the business, you're going to find that quite hard. So the next part of the inertia is that we could look at just somebody who works for us just a few hours to do those kind of exhibitions, whether it's for a baby group or a women's group or whatever it would be, or down at the local gym. Whatever we're doing, we can make a little bit of a change. But when you're trying to do it all yourself, you usually get swallowed in the quicksand, and basically you start to slowly suffocate instead of being able to take a big gulp of breath of air and things. So I kind of get that, I promise you, with things. The first thing that I'd recommend you to do is actually change the essentials straight away. What do I mean by that? It means that if we've got a diary that is pretty full, but people aren't spending the monies that you need to make it work. In other words, the X times Y equals Z. You know, the X is the amount of clients, the Y is the amount of money they spend, and then obviously the Z is the business success or failure, depends on what it is. So if I'm running a studio, a small studio, one-man band, I may be trying to keep below the VAT level or whatever it is. So I'm looking at around about a kind of a 6.5 to 7 grand kind of per month. Once I hit a kind of an eight grand month consistently, it looks like I'm going to go over the VAT level and so on. Now, there's so many small businesses that fear VAT, but I would fear not enough work to begin with. And basically I would fear the kind of the not having the buffer that I would having to repay the likes of, it works out at approximately about 11% that you'd have to pay to the kind of the government if you go VAT registered. But the first thing would be is if your business is really designed to just go below the VAT level, to make sure that you are working the business to death to work to that level. Some of you have seen me use in the past my kind of roadmap plan, where we look at how much our average client is going to spend. That means if I'm going to stay below a VAT level, is how many weeks of the year and how many sessions I need to do to make it work. As much as I try and encourage you to sell the experience and sell the memory in product for the wall or for a box of prints and so on, there's also an acceptance that when our client is a low spending client, we need to focus in more on what is profit high, so we're not kind of spending out the majority of our sale in the likes of product costs and things, really. But just by selling the digital file basically isn't giving them a memory. So if you are selling digital files and basically you want to add a little bit of worth to it, then add a small print box. Loose prints, the likes of SimLab is great value for money. And basically for pennies, you'll be able to get the likes of a 7.5, 8.8, whatever you do. And then perhaps there's a way that you can actually put them into a simple packaging that might cost you £1 or £2 to kind of really add value to it and things, really. So even if you don't have the budget within the basic sale to kind of include the likes of a box of prints or matted prints with a USB or whatever it would be, we can still make that product in a sexy way, and we can still add value to that product in a sexy way without having to pay for the full-on version of, you know, the matted box of prints and so on with it. So changing the essentials in product and sale is number one. Looking at what the client is spending and what the client is buying. You know, I talk a lot about the three most powerful words in the sales room is most people buy. So if you can put those words into your post-session pre-selling, in other words, you finish the shoot, the client's getting ready to come back in a few days time or a week's time, whatever. As long as you're talking through the price list, give them the physical price list, not type down on a piece of paper. Make yourself professional. I recently ordered 10,000 postcards for an event, and they cost 138 quid. Now, you're probably only going to need something like 1,000 postcards that could be a price list and so on with it. So it's going to be a fraction of what you need. So don't put the pennies in front of the pounds. The more professional you make your business, the more a client is thinking about you. And if you can start to look at realistic collections based around the average that you need to achieve within your business level, looking at the profit was in there, you can basically say, without going through all of the price list as such, look, we do a la carte, you can basically buy anything framed as big as you want, blah, 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 and they start from whatever. But to be honest, most people buy our middle collection here called gold, let's say, and that includes something for the wall, blah, 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 and it kind of just goes from there. So you can change these simple things within your business in the same way as with the cost of living change. You can move your avatar in your advertising. If your social media marketing is the main thing that you're doing, and perhaps you were picking a client that was, say, because you're dealing with young families, you're picking up a client that is 25 to 45 years of age, straight away you could actually change your avatar to a 35-year-old, and even though you'll get less responses and possibly less clients, you might be picking up a bigger, better quality client. So when you start to do these changes, of course, you don't stop completely what you're doing on the one end, unless you can afford to do that, or unless it's a disaster. But what you could do and say, well, if I'm spending £3 a day on this new avatar, I'll only spend £3 every other day on the old avatar, and we'll see how the difference kind of works out and so on. So again, it's about that inertia. It's changed the essential elements. Changing essential elements can be at times with the diary. We saw that this year with my experience group when COVID was still having a major effect on the business, when it basically was resulting in about 25% of sessions being rescheduled because people being tested positive and so on. Yesterday, even I had to actually cancel my dentist appointment for next week because I've got signs of a cold now. So it's affecting all businesses in all ways. But so that we could buffer with the people who were missing or having to change their sessions, I suggested that they add extra sessions into their diary. Worst case is that they were going to have the busiest day they've ever had if everybody came in on that day. But it's usually going to ease that buffer in with people who are having to reschedule, so our X times Y could still equal Z as such, really. So change is key. Don't stop the marketing, just restart immediately a better marketing. So as I've touched on already, we're really looking at moving that avatar to a new, so these kind of move together, number 3 and 4, restart the immediate marketing with a new avatar. Go and find different places to exhibit. Talk to different local businesses than you've talked to before. Make an effort in doing things. The worst thing that you can do is sit at your computer looking at Facebook, looking at what others are doing, or actually sat, at home not doing anything productive within the business. Change, I know, does take effort, but we can change it. That's the good news. There was a guy going back to at the beginning of my career in the late 80s in our local Master Photographers Association BIPP kind of group. They kind of merged together because of the big area that we're in. But Mr. Owens, as I still called him to the day he died, and basically gave me a bit of advice that I've never forgotten. And he said, initiate the 7th day, Mark. If you initiate the 7th day, you'll gain yourself an hour a day before anybody comes into work, before anything really gets going, and you can basically get rid of so many tasks and change whatever you're doing before you even needed to. So if your usual start time is 9 o'clock, go in at 8 o'clock and basically don't open up the door, don't answer the phones, don't do your emails or whatever it would be, but actually initiate the changes or implement the things that you're trying to implement initially in that 7th day. So if you can create that extra hour a day within your business, and I don't mean kind of having to work till 2 o'clock in the morning. I had a very close friend of mine, and she was a wedding photographer, and basically even before she had a child, she basically couldn't organize herself in the middle of the day. She found it too many distractions. She was going out and doing Girls Who Do Lunch and all that kind of thing, but it then meant that she was having to work a business through until kind of 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then that self-fulfilling prophecy was she was knackered when she got up in the next morning. So if we can start at the beginning of the day, we're not waiting to the end of the day to make the changes. So you have this control in how you can make a difference with it. And then last but no means least is this kind of new you. Stop photographing in the same way you were doing. If everybody else is shooting, the same kind of photography as you, why should the client buy it? If you've been photographing for 20 odd years and people have been buying in the past, but they're not buying now, why are they not buying now? You can blame it on people, you can blame it on prices and so on, but usually you can actually pinpoint it as well, that you're not inspiring the client to actually be buying their images anymore. You're perhaps talking to them in a bit of a negative way instead of a positive way. And I'm not known for my lip service. Anybody who's been a part of my kind of business groups over the years knows that I'm going to talk to you straight. I'm not here to be a friend. I'm here to be an advisor. I'm here to make sure that the business is better tomorrow than it is today. But it takes you to change things. I can suggest you doing things like we've just touched on in the last 20 minutes, but it takes you to be able to go away and initiate these things. So stop doing what you're doing now. That's number one in everything that I kind of suggest, and start doing something different. If you can do something different as of today, so if you're a photographer, which I hope you are on this business session, you never know. But if you're a photographer and you've got a busy day today, just don't go through the mill. Completely be the person you want to be. Be the person that you're kind of seeing from a distance, and you're looking over the pond and you're seeing how somebody else does it in, you know, Sussex compared to where you are in Birmingham. If there's photographers that you follow and you're kind of in their awe, then basically look at what they do and initiate it. You've probably watched enough of it now to be able to just kind of do it. Stop doing the same flow. Create this new you. Dress a little bit differently. Talk a little bit differently. Speak to the clients. Correspond with the clients in a different way. These are all things that you have control of without any trouble, and it's only probably you who's stopping you from doing stuff. So if you're looking to reset your business because it's not working and it's not right for you, you should stop doing what you're doing now and basically put those 5 things in place. Good luck, and we'll see you next week, where we're going to be looking at planning the client experience from the very start. Thanks for joining me live.